The Dance of the Dragons. A stupid name for a Targaryen civil war where my ancestors danced away my birthright. Before the war, House Targaryen counted 18 dragons. By the end, we had 2, and nearly as few Targaryens. We would never be as powerful or as feared again.
The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon update video. Alright my friends, in this video, we will have another look at George R.R. Martin's most recent interview with House of the Dragon's writer and showrunner Ryan Condal. This new interview not only shines a light on their working relationship, but it also gives us more insight into how they went about making House of the Dragon. Now, as you all know, House of the Dragon is HBO's new Game of Thrones series based on George R.R. Martin's writing in Fire and Blood. In House of the Dragon, we will see what happened to House Targaryen during the events known as the Dance of the Dragons. As of right now, we are less than 3 months away from finally seeing Westeros again. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I'm getting very excited. I have been waiting for this day for over 3 years now. Before I go any further, I just want to say I will be giving away my extra copy of Fire and Blood. In 30 days, I will be sending this extra book to one of you. All you gotta do is subscribe to enter the giveaway. I want to make sure I send this out before the new show starts. This will give one of you a chance to learn a lot more information about House Targaryen before House of the Dragon airs its first episode. Good luck to those of you who subscribe to enter the giveaway. Now let's get back to the video. Now that the first episode of House of the Dragon is on the horizon, co-creators George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal have been sitting down for interviews to discuss their new show. When they sat down with Idris Elba for their recent interview, they went into some of the details about how their relationship started. According to George R.R. Martin, he said it all started about 3 years ago when HBO knew Game of Thrones was ending. This was when they knew they wanted to move forward with a successor show. As you can imagine, George R.R. Martin gave them several different ideas for a new show, and one of those ideas centered around House Targaryen and what happened during the Dance of the Dragons. When all of this first started happening, he said HBO already had other writers in mind. Some of those writers did not get very far. Some of them got considerably far and did good work, but they did eventually find themselves without a writer, and one day when George met with Ryan Condal at the Four Seasons, he thought, hey, you would be great for this. Not only had Ryan read all of his novels about Westeros, but according to George, he said Ryan knew a lot about fantasy in general. He goes on to say, now I have to admit, I'm not the most objective guy in this discussion. I'm the author of the original source material. When you get a writer who is hired to do an adaptation but is not familiar with the original material, in some cases they hire someone who doesn't even like the original material. And you have this language in Hollywood. You will hear some of these writers say, I'm gonna make it my own. I have my own vision for this, and that sort of thing. Not even discussing my work, but discussing myself as a viewer, as a consumer of things. If I go to see The Great Gatsby, I don't want someone else's version on The Great Gatsby. I don't want them to make it their own. I want Scott Fitzgerald brought to life in front of my face. Now, unfortunately, you don't always get that, so to be able to work with someone like Ryan, not just that he knew my books, the fact that he knew fantasy and loved fantasy was a big thing for me. Now, if this doesn't get you excited, then I don't know what will. According to George R.R. Martin, it honestly does sound like Ryan will make a very faithful adaptation. It sounds like he's saying Ryan will make it exactly how the author wanted it to be. In fact, this is essentially what Ryan says as well. During the same interview, Ryan said, so for me it was a trust-building exercise, and the way Miguel and I went into this was as fans of the original show. So what we're all trying to do is create the thing that we as fans would want to see. For me as a fan, that meant a very faithful adaptation. So I was very lucky in this case. I had George's ear. I shared every outline that I wrote with him for the first episode, and every draft for the pilot I wrote. And then once that started getting going and HBO was happy, I think George was happy and knew where the story was heading and how we wanted to move forward with the rest of the season. So that's what I really try to do. I basically made sure he was getting as much information as I could. Then we eventually wrote a series Bible, and he came to Los Angeles to join us and heard how all of that was unfolding. So I think at every step of the way, he always knew where the story was going. So with me, it was always making sure he was involved and keeping his eyes on it as much as I could, because I felt like if George blessed this and said it was good, or if we debated on something and it's not the thing he wanted, we would find a solution. Then I felt like I had done my job as the author of the adaptation. We did have some healthy debates during the early stages of developing House of the Dragon, mostly about how the show would be structured. It involved a deep and introspective look into how the material that you wouldn't necessarily have to do if you were just reading or discussing it as a history book. If you've read Fire and Blood, then you would know that it's one guy, Archmaester Gyldain, having to sift through 3 other guys who all have an incomplete account on the history of what happened, hoping to figure out what actually happened. Because we're telling the objective version of this story, we had to make decisions about if this was going to happen and how that was going to happen. Alright, so as you can see with the interview, it sounds like they are making as faithful of an adaptation as you can make, given that they are adapting a fake history book that does have several different versions of the same events. If you've read Fire and Blood, then you know it's not structured like George's other novels and A Song of Ice and Fire. Unfortunately, Fire and Blood doesn't have very much dialogue, so that's something Ryan and the other writers will have to do on their own. Not only that, but like I said, there are several different accounts on the same event, so they will have to decide on whose version of these events they will follow. It will be very interesting to see how all of this will unfold. At the end of the day, they have a very good outline because George R.R. Martin had already basically established what happened during a lot of the major events during the Dance of the Dragons. He has already laid out who will live, who will die, and who will be seated on the Iron Throne, so we already know it will have a great ending, in the sense that it won't feel like it has any holes. One thing I do know is we will find out exactly how good House of the Dragon is in less than 3 months. The day we have all been waiting for is finally almost here. I have faith that Ryan will deliver a great show. It honestly sounds like that's what he wants to do for the fans. I think he also wants to do this for George R.R. Martin. I don't think he wants to let him down either. He has been a fan of his for several decades now, so I doubt he wants to do something that might negatively affect how the fans will look at his body of work. Either way, we will see soon enough. As always, I want to thank all of you for watching this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you would like to enter to win George R. R. Martin's Fire and Blood Volume 1. Good luck, and have a great day. I will see all of you back here very soon for my next video. Bye.